Hello and welcome to Hoosier Gameday, presented by the Hoosier Network, your weekly IU football show breaking down everything you need to know to get you ready for your college football Saturday. Ryan Canfield, Liv Clements here. Liv, IU went out to Pasadena and handled UCLA in a game that was really only in doubt until kickoff.
Yeah, you're right. I think the big thing was the anticipation leading up to that game. They didn't know what to expect from IU. IU looked strong going into the season. They were undefeated. They put numbers on the board and really held their opponents to low scoring. But UCLA also came in with a win, but it was really shaky. So I think the big thing was we just didn't know what was going to happen. It really took whatever team came out the strongest. Unfortunately, that was IU, and then they got the win.
What about this team shows you, when you watch this team, you say, okay, this team's for real. This is no fluke. Like, this is one of the better offenses and surprisingly defenses in the Big Ten.
Right.
What in this game showed you that and proved that to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is they're showing steps forward after each game. So I think the big thing was after that first game, Cignetti said they need to learn how to play with a lead. And they clearly did that with UCLA, right? When they got that lead against UCLA, they let them have points on the board, but they also just kept their composure going into that second half. Another big thing was that he pointed on was penalties. This last game around 14 penalties, and they were big ones. I mean, targeting and roughing the passer. And yes, Cignetti said a lot of them were Mickey Mouse calls, which I think some Hoosier fans could have agreed on. But the big thing was they're showing growth after each game, and their weaknesses aren't becoming consistent throughout their games as well. And they're showing strength offensively, defensively. They just haven't really shown, like, I don't know, any weaknesses really against big teams.
Right. And, I mean, the strength of schedule, certainly, and it doesn't get any more challenging this week with, you know, FIU, Western Illinois, a bad FCS team, or sorry, a Division II team, and then now UCLA, one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, and now the final non-con before we get into, you know, the real big ones of the better Big Ten teams. Let's show you how it happened last Saturday night. Let's take you out to the most historic stadium in this amazing game, the Rose Bowl. Opening drive for Indiana. They march down 75 yards and cap it off with the Ohio Bobcat connection. Curtis Rourke to Miles Cross in the end zone. I'd say that connection is still very much intact. And now on the next play from scrimmage, the first snap for UCLA, Indiana pounces on a ball that slips out of the hands of Bruin quarterback Ethan Garbers. You see, he starts to throw, regrets the decision, Mikhail Kamara pounces on it. And Indiana would strike right away with this beautiful play call here from offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan. You see Keyshawn Williams start a little bit to the right, turn upfield, dive in for 6. It's his first touchdown of the season. And with the Hoosier defense keeping the Bruins off the field, it would lead to another Hoosier scoring drive thanks to this ball from Rourke again to Cross. Cross will be ruled down at the 1, and then one play later, justice is served with Ellison diving in for the 1-yard score, 21-0. Indiana. They put the pedal to the metal early until UCLA found some nice plays in the winding moments of the first half. You see Ethan Garbers evade that pressure from the Indiana defensive line. He gets down to the 1, and they would punch it in here with TJ Harden with just over 40 seconds to go in the half. The first half would end, and UCLA would add another on their first drive of the second half. But then Indiana stops any bids for a comeback. You see Keyshawn Williams again for Indiana. And they would keep the punches coming on a free play. Rourke finds Omar Cooper Jr., someone we've been talking a lot about on this show, how he needs to break out and hasn't had any fares from the last systems. I'm sure this Mike Shanahan, Curt Cignetti, Tino Sunseri system is working out very favorably for OCJ. UCLA would add another score, and then they would cap it off with an Elijah Green touchdown. Hoosiers complete the successful road trip, and they take it 42-13. So, Liv, from that sequence, what really showed you that this Hoosier team is really capable of, especially when they go on the road and do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that you saw was that run game is just insane, and it hasn't gotten any weaker. And with QB just out there feeling comfortable, you have wide receivers, you have running backs all out there, and he has many options to pick from. And that's why that offense is just so lethal, because no one's like, okay, we have one star receiver. If we lock him down, we're good. No, there's multiple out there that he is going to be ready for. And I think the big thing was that defense. I know the penalties came mostly from defense, but they held strong with that. And like you said, it was their first Big Ten opponent. Yes, UCLA isn't the top of the Big Ten, but still, first Big Ten opponent, and it's away, and it's in LA. I mean,
right. Absolutely. I mean, you had to win this game. And I'll tell you what, Curtis Rourke, we've talked about him a lot. This is almost Curtis Rourke game day. The way that we talked about him, and I've talked about him on our podcast. 25 of 33 in this game, 307 passing, 4 passing touchdowns, 95.5 QBR. He cemented himself as Big Ten Player of the Week. He gets the honor. But the best part about this whole thing is we've talked about the depth of this receiver group and how last year some of them did not benefit well in the Walt Bell system. Donovan McCulley, whose status was in question for this game, they didn't even need him. He didn't even catch a pass in this game. So if I would have told you that he wouldn't have caught a pass in this game before Saturday, what would your reaction have been?
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't have been that surprised only because when he went out that first game, it didn't hurt the offense. I feel like it would have been different if they would have went in that first game and you just saw a decline. But they really didn't need him. But that's fortunate, though. And like Cignetti said, the big thing comes down is it's next man up. We can't worry about who's hurt on the field. We can't worry about who's not in. Everyone's confident in their position, and Cignetti is too. So it's unfortunate that he's not getting as many reps in as I think that he would want to. But it's working for IU. So you really can't complain. As long as you're coming out with the win, he can't complain.
Right. And so something I want to touch on here is something that we've kind of been preaching about all week, whether it's on social media, here, downstairs in the podcasting booth, whether it's us or it's Pack the Rock, the cultural significance of this win. I mean, Hoosier teams of the past do not win this game. I can think of, ever since I've been here, since I've been alive, Hoosier teams do not win this game. Whether UCLA, is head coached by Chip Kelly, or if it's Deshaun Foster, or if Dorian Thompson-Robinson's their quarterback.
Right.
What does this win mean? What does this win tell Bloomington, Hoosier Nation, all over the world?
I mean, it's huge. I think it also is insane to think that they're already putting in a percentage of possibility for IU to make the playoffs. And for people that are just now watching IU, you don't even understand the significance to say that IU has potential to win the playoffs. And they're already saying as well, has potential to beat Michigan. It's just huge, huge for IU fans, especially to get fans into Memorial Stadium. Cignetti said he came in, he wanted to make a different tradition here, and he already has. After that first game, he said, I need fans after halftime, and he's meaning it, and he's giving them a reason to stay. So it's huge for fans. It's huge for the culture of IU, and it's really putting IU on the map as a football team. Yes, Indiana is the basketball state, and I stand by it, but they're becoming a football state too. So it's huge to compete against also big names like Notre Dame, but put IU in that mix. It's just huge for IU in general.
And you mentioned the percentages coming from the ESPN FPI for the playoff prediction. And I think while the FPI is kind of a little, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but you don't need to have, the best brain to know that Indiana looks like one of the best teams in the Big Ten right now.
No, you don't. I mean, they're showing it. If you even watch just the highlights like you just did, it's showing that they're a dominant team. A team hasn't been able to figure them out yet. Once a team does, it will be interesting to see that when it comes to bigger games. Like after Charlotte, they go straight with Maryland. And then from there, it's Nebraska and it's Washington. So those aren't teams to sleep on. But I don't feel like Cignetti slept on these teams that they're expected to win either. So it's just going to be big going into the rest of this conference. But I feel like IU's just, they're holding their own. They're doing the thing.
Right. And we said in week 1, you don't need to win your conference to be in the playoff.
Right.
This Hoosier team could easily, come out with 10 wins, 2 losses, and maybe have a little, at-large berth into this playoff. So, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I know it's week 3, played one Big Ten game against arguably the worst team in the conference.
Right.
But it's exciting.
But it's in discussion.
This is a real discussion. It is exciting. And this campus, this fan base deserves this.
Yeah, and now they go into Charlotte, which is expected to be another win. But still, Cignetti said that we're not sleeping on anybody. But Charlotte will be still, just a fun area to be around too. Undefeated.
Yeah. This is uncharted territory.
Right.
IU was undefeated in 2022. They were 3-0, but finished 4-8. So this is a great territory for this team to be in, this fan base to be in. But we're going to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll preview the Charlotte 49ers and their matchup with the Hoosiers. Welcome back. Now it's time to preview this week's matchup. Indiana, Charlotte. One of my favorite stories in college football. We've talked about it here off camera.
Yes.
You've heard me say it on HNCFB. My favorite story is Biff Poggi, the billion-dollar head coach. Before he was a football coach, he led a hedge fund and was a billionaire. comes out of that, wants to coach football, heads to Michigan to coach under Jim Harbaugh, finds himself as the head coach at the University of Charlotte. How has he been doing in his first 2 seasons as the head coach of this team?
4-11 currently. So he still has a rocky start going in with the Charlotte team, but he has room for improvement always. I mean, second season always shows you try to build a team, you try to figure it out. But with that loss against JMU, loss against UNC, but they did get a win against Gardner-Webb, 27-26. So it was such a close game. But the main factor that's been in all of those games is that run game. When opponents attack them with that run game, they are just weaker. They allowed 100-plus rushing yards with each team they've gone against, even Gardner-Webb that they won. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate, as well as also they're playing 3 quarterbacks. Third-string quarterback coming in for the second string who came in for the first-string quarterback. So it's interesting to see how they're going to navigate their defense and their offense. It will be huge for Charlotte to pick out those weaknesses while they're going into this game. But IU is already watching film and they're already ready. IU should be going in confident. But again, don't sleep on any team. Charlotte still probably will put, I would say, a field goal or 2 and maybe a touchdown on the board. But I really see IU coming out with this win against the Charlotte team.
You know, I will say, we've looked at our notes, and Charlotte is a very undisciplined team. You know, 9 penalties against Gardner-Webb, 8 against UNC, and then a lot more against former Curt Cignetti's former team, James Madison, 6 in that game. So I think, you know, when you have a team that is, you know, bound for an upset, you know, the underdog in a non-conference game, penalties are the quickest way to let these wins, you know, deteriorate from your hands. And I think if they want to win this game, you have to play the cleanest game possible, especially against a Big Ten team, you know, in this opportune moment. And I feel like, you know, this is not a great team. And I think Indiana will have their work cut out for them. And if this game goes to plan, Charlotte will not score more than 14 points.
No, I 100% agree. I think it'll be big. I think it's a game for IU to get those kinks out before going into Big Ten Conference. Tune up, right, exactly. And then for Charlotte, it's just navigating playing a bigger opponent, I think will be the big thing. I think learning from your mistakes, learning how to navigate a Big Ten team, going into a bigger arena, a bigger fan base. It's just going to be a learning experience for them, I think will be the main takeaway. I don't think any team wants to go in with a blowout, but unfortunately, I really do think that if IU sticks to their offensive plan, their defensive plan, I mean, it will be hard, though, with some of their players from last game against UCLA having to sit out that first half with those targeting penalties. And the roughing the passer penalties will be huge. But again, it's not a big blow for IU. They still have a strong team. Curtis Works going to go in and do what he needs to do. Justice Ellison will be out there. Elijah Surratt will be out there. Aiden Fisher. It's just going to be a good IU team out there on a beautiful Saturday.
Absolutely. And we also talked about the second teamers possibly getting some snaps. Taven Jackson, Tyler Cherry. It's just going to be a fun game for the second stringers. Before we get out of here for the week, it's time to predict the score at the end of the 60 minutes of this game. Liv, take it away. What do you got for this game?
All right, so like I said earlier, I still have IU winning. I'm having them go 4-0, and I'm going to say 56-6. IU has always dominated when it comes to putting numbers on the board, so I feel like they'll do that for this game, especially with it being at home as well, because you can just tell that home arena just gets it for them every time. But they have allowed each opponent to put numbers on the board. I think when Charlotte goes into that field goal range, they'll put some numbers on the board. I'm going to give them 56-6. They'll get 2 field goals, maybe. I don't see them getting in the end zone, though, because Aiden Fisher's leading that defense, and he's not going to let it happen this game.
Before we came on air, 63-10.
Yeah.
But I'll dial it back a little bit. We'll go 45-10.
Okay.
Hoosiers take it. I think that's it for us this week.
There we go.
We want to thank you for watching, and next week, we'll get into the thick of the Big Ten Conference season when we preview Maryland. Woo. But until then, we'll see you later, and enjoy your college football Saturday.